The abdomen is not a storage unit for fat. It is a signal. It is a signpost your body erects when something inside has ceased to function according to the engineering principles of circulation. Many search for the cause of this excess volume in their food, in bread, in sugar, in late-night meals. But the true answer lies deeper. It is not on your plate, but within your anatomy, more precisely within its dynamics. Alexander Mikulin, an engineer of aircraft engines and a researcher of the human body as a system, asserted that the organism is a machine. And like any machine, it doesn't fail all at once, but gradually, from microscopic misalignments, from weak fluid dynamics, from stagnation in its key zones. He considered the liver to be one of these critical zones. Not the stomach, not the intestines, but the liver, the main hub of processing, filtration, and distribution. And when the liver is overloaded, the entire body ceases to be a finely tuned system. It begins to expand in its most vulnerable places, the lower abdomen, the waist, the flanks. Not because there is more fat there, but because there is more stagnation. The belly grows not from food, but from a lack of movement within the systems of circulation and purification. This is not a guess, it is a calculation. If we wish to reduce the abdomen, the real task is not to eat less, but to reboot the liver, as a pump, as a filter, as the body's chemical laboratory. Let us begin. First, the liver is the primary filter, not the stomach. As long as you believe that digestion begins and ends in the stomach, your body will continue to suffer from overload in an entirely different place. The liver is not merely an organ. It is a chemical laboratory through which up to 1.5 liters of blood passes every single minute. It neutralizes toxins, breaks down harmful compounds, metabolizes fats, and regulates blood sugar, all of it silently while you go about your life. But the moment this system falters, the body begins to send signals. The very first symptom is an increase in abdominal volume. Mikulin wrote, "A filter clogged with sludge ceases to filter. So too the liver, if blood stagnates within it, self-poisoning begins." Many are convinced that the main enemy is overeating, but the true enemy is stagnant blood in the filtering organ, blood that is no longer capable of renewal. When blood doesn't move, it transforms from a source of life into a sewer of waste. The liver stops performing its functions, and fats are no longer processed, but instead settle where the current is weakest, in the abdominal cavity. And this is not just fat. It is water, it is interstitial fluid, it is lymph that is not being drained. Mikulin had a simple principle: no movement, no cleansing. And when the liver becomes a dead end instead of a pump, the abdomen is the first to react. You can restrict your food, skip dinner, count calories, but if the filter isn't working, no diet will yield results. This is precisely why people who eat clean but lead sedentary lives wonder, why am I still bloating around my midsection? The answer lies in biomechanics, not in dietary habits. The stomach digests, but it does not cleanse. The liver cleanses, but only on the condition that there is both inflow and outflow of blood. The moment you sit for a long time, especially hunched over, you are literally kinking the vessels leading to the liver, blocking its drainage. It's like pinching the hose in a cooling system. The engine overheats. Thus, the belly begins to grow not from food, but from internal stagnation caused by a failing filtration system. This process is gradual, you don't notice it for years, but the liver remembers every single overload. Mikulin argued that the body accumulates errors and then demands payment for neglecting the laws of motion. And that payment is a protruding abdomen, shortness of breath, heaviness, disturbed sleep, and a feeling of internal dampness. If the filter is not cleaned, no external measures will help. We must stop thinking of the belly as a sack for food. It is an indicator of the liver's condition. And the liver is not something you can cleanse with juice. It is something you must unload with movement, rhythm, and the pulsation of blood. This is where recovery begins. Second, why does fat go to the belly and not the shoulders? If excess fat were distributed evenly throughout the body, people would simply look slightly larger, but they wouldn't lose their shape. In reality, however, fat always concentrates in the lower abdomen, on the flanks, around the waist. Why not in the shoulders, the forearms, or the hands? Because the body is not a sack, but a system with specific laws governing the distribution of fluid, pressure, and energy. Alexander Mikulin believed that the areas of least movement are the areas of greatest stagnation. And where there is stagnation, there is accumulation. The abdomen is the very region where the movement of blood and lymph is most restricted, especially with a sedentary lifestyle. It is here that vessels are compressed and venous flow is disrupted. As a result, the tissues become slack, swollen, and loose. The liver, as a filter, becomes overloaded and fails to neutralize fats and toxins in time, so they settle first and foremost where the flow is slowest. That is the abdomen. Skinny legs and a puffy belly share a single cause: the uneven distribution of pressure and lymphatic flow. Mikulin said, "Fat doesn't grow where there is a lot of food, but where there is no movement." In the shoulders and arms, blood circulates more actively because we move them more often, while the abdomen is static. It is suspended, compressed, and blocked by numerous internal organs and poor posture. This makes it the perfect reservoir for all things superfluous. Therefore, it is pointless to massage your shoulders hoping to improve your body shape. You must restore circulation in the lower torso, including the liver, intestines, and iliac veins. Only then will fat cease to be deposited locally. Nature distributes excess to where there is least resistance, and the path of least resistance is stagnation. That is why the belly grows first and shrinks last. This is not aesthetics, it is physics. And if we want to change this system, we must not fight the belly, but restore movement to its very center, the liver, and the space surrounding it. Third, the stagnation of blood and lymph in the liver is the true cause of the volume. The human body is not simply filled with blood. It is designed for blood to move. It is movement that cleanses. It is flow that creates renewal. When this flow stops, the body begins to rot from the inside out. The liver is the central station through which up to 1.5 liters of blood passes every minute. But if a person is immobile, especially for long periods as with sedentary work, the venous drainage from the liver is compromised. Instead of filtration, accumulation begins. The liver swells, its capsule stretches, and a sense of internal pressure replaces lightness. This is the source of heaviness in the right side, a bitter taste in the mouth, a feeling of distension after eating. But most importantly, it creates a subtle internal edema that visually manifests as a growing belly. Mikulin emphasized, the body makes no noise when it is dying. It is silent. But this silence is not a sign of health. We remain unaware of problems for a long time until they take shape as volume. The lymphatic system, unlike the circulatory system, has no pump of its own. Its pump is your movement. And if you do not move, lymph stagnates, especially in the area of the liver and intestines. This is where toxins, dead cells, and bacteria accumulate. Paired with impaired blood flow, this delivers a double blow to the internal organs. The liver fails as a filter. The lymphatic system clogs as a drain. All of this internal silence transforms into visible roundness and no-am. Ounce of crunches can remove what lies deeper than the abs, beneath the muscles, inside you. To get rid of the belly, you don't need to burn fat. You need to restore the flow of blood and lymph through the liver. This is the only way to initiate a true reboot of the body. Fourth, what happens to the liver when you sit for hours? When you sit for an extended period, especially in a slouched posture, you create the perfect conditions for the destruction of your own liver. The liver doesn't just lie in the abdominal cavity. It is positioned in direct proximity to the inferior vena cava and pressed against the diaphragm. This means that your every breath, every movement of your torso should be helping it pump blood. But in a seated position, these movements are minimal or absent altogether. Especially if you lean forward, your abdomen is compressed, the diaphragm is immobilized, and the inflow and outflow of blood to the liver practically grinds to a halt. Mikulin said, "The organism does not like stagnation. In stagnation, it dies without a sound." And this applies first and foremost to the liver. While you sit, the liver continues to filter blood, but it does so under strain, like a pump that is being obstructed. As a result, blood flow slows, venous pressure in the organ rises, and this causes micro-inflammation, micro-disruptions in the tissue structure. Instead of cleansing, you get accumulation. Instead of energy, fatigue. Instead of a trim figure, internal swelling. An hour of sitting with your legs crossed can cause a short-term congestion in the liver, which will later be felt as heaviness, a headache, puffiness under the eyes, and a strange listlessness. But if you sit like this every day, it becomes a chronic condition. The abdomen rounds out because everything that fails to drain settles. And it's not just fat that settles, but fluid, inflammatory byproducts, and poorly filtered lymph. Mikulin advised, every 45 minutes get up and shake your body, not for your figure, but for your life. He understood that the liver's greatest enemy is immobility. Not fatty food, not sugar, but the absence of its natural massage through movement, because the liver is an organ without pain receptors. It doesn't scream when it's in trouble. It simply inflates your belly. And you think you've gained weight, when in reality, you've become stagnant. This means that to restore the liver, you don't need to sit less, but to move more frequently. Fifth, why doesn't healthy eating work if the liver is congested? Many people, upon noticing their belly growing, decide to change their diet. They give up sugar, switch to whole grains, eat steamed foods, drink green tea, and do everything by the book. But the belly remains. Why? Because healthy food is ineffective if the system meant to process it is overloaded and contaminated. The liver is not a warehouse where nutrients are simply stored. It is a processing plant. If its internal conveyor belt is jammed, any correct food will only create new problems. Mikulin wrote, "Clean food cannot save a dirty organism. First, clear the pipes, then turn on the water." When the liver is full of stagnant blood, interstitial fluid, and non-functioning hepatocytes, it cannot efficiently filter even the lightest food. Protein is not absorbed properly, carbohydrates cause an insulin spike. Even vegetables can cause bloating, not because of the food itself, but due to a lack of space and energy for their processing. People are surprised. I'm eating right, but I feel heavy. I feel sluggish and crave sweets. This is not a weakness of character. It is an organism that has not received the proper support at the filtration level. As long as the liver is congested, everything else is pointless. Food is not assimilated, fats are not oxidized, waste is not eliminated. It all begins to settle, especially in the lower abdomen. Many start to blame themselves. I must be eating too much. But the cause is not the volume of food, but the condition of the processing center. And until you restore rhythm to the liver, no salads or yogurts will help. It's like pouring fresh oil into a rusted engine. You must first flush it out. This is why Mikulin emphasized not diets, but active influence on the liver area through movement, vibration, breathing, and regularly shaking up the system. He asserted, do not seek health in food if you have not provided the body with flow. And this is especially true when it comes to the abdomen, because the belly is not a warehouse for fat, but a reservoir for what could not be drained away. And it can only drain away through an open, clean, living liver. Sixth, the connection between the belly, the veins, and gravity. The human body is subject not only to the laws of biology, but also to the laws of physics. And one of the main forces acting on us every day is gravity. It pulls all fluids downward. But while the heart pumps blood with great force, the venous and lymphatic systems lack such a powerful engine. The return of fluids from the lower body upwards requires active assistance from muscles and movement. And here is where the main problem begins. The abdomen is a zone anatomically situated below the liver, between the diaphragm and the pelvis. It contains a vast network of veins and lymphatic vessels. If a person is sedentary, especially in a seated position, fluid begins to accumulate in this lower region under the force of gravity. This is precisely why the abdomen is the first area where swelling, stagnation, and internal pressure appear. Mikulin stressed, the venous system is not a pipe, it is living tissue, and if it has been stretched out, nothing will flow back properly. When veins lose their tone and muscles do not contract, the return of blood from the abdominal organs is disrupted. The liver experiences back pressure. The pressure inside it rises. It stops filtering. It gets stuck in its own viscosity. It becomes a swamp. There is an entrance, but no exit. Under these conditions, fats, toxins, hormone residues, and other metabolic wastes settle in the lower abdomen because the current is broken and the force of gravity continues to pull everything down. Even in thin people who lead a sedentary lifestyle, one can observe a round, firm belly. This is not fat, it is stagnation. It is the consequence of blood being unable to return upwards and the liver as a filter being unable to push out its processed contents. Mikulin compared this to a radiator that overheats if circulation within it stops. To combat this, he proposed a system of shaking the body, imitating natural vibrations and vertical oscillations to move blood and lymph back up against gravity. He wrote, "You cannot break the law of flow, but you can assist it. Otherwise, you will lose to your own mass." This is why, to reduce the abdomen, it is not enough to simply lose weight. You must restore the upward flow, from the belly to the liver, from the liver to the heart, from the heart to the brain. Otherwise, everything you fail to eliminate will remain where it interferes the most, inside your belly. Seventh, how Mikulin's vibrations unload the abdomen. When Alexander Mikulin began searching for ways to heal the body, he approached the organism as a mechanism. And as an engineer, he asked himself, if there is stagnation in the system, how do you eliminate it? He found the answer in vibration. He noticed that vertical oscillations of the body intensify the flow of venous blood upward from the legs, the abdominal cavity, and the liver towards the heart. This was a revolutionary observation. He wrote, "An engine should not be warmed up, it should be shaken. Then the stagnant oil will go back to work." He viewed the body in precisely the same way. If blood is standing still, you shouldn't thin it with pills, you should shake it through biomechanics. Thus was born Mikulin's famous vibro-gymnastics, which involves standing straight, rising up on your toes, and then sharply dropping onto your heels, creating a gentle shock wave that travels up through the entire body. This simple action generates a vertical wave that shakes the venous system, squeezes blood out of the capillaries, enhances lymph flow, and discharges the liver. He believed that this exact movement allows the liver to shed its accumulated burden and restart its filtration process. It is especially important to do this in the first half of the day, when the body is not yet overloaded. These vibrations work not through the muscles, but through the bones and ligaments, like an internal massage. The abdomen, in turn, begins to come alive, ceasing to be just a soft sack and starting to participate in the body's work. Gradually, the swelling subsides, the heaviness disappears, and digestion improves. Many who practiced Mikulin's method noted that, even without diet or sports, the volume in their abdomen began to decrease simply because the flow had started. He asserted, "Vibration is the salvation from immobility. It is a pump built into your very bones." This is particularly effective for the liver because it is located at the center of this vertical pressure between the diaphragm and the intestines. By shaking your body, you are unloading your liver, like releasing pressure from a tank. The abdomen becomes softer, more mobile, lighter. Mikulin did not believe in miracles. He believed in mechanics, and his method is the mechanics of health, because a filter that you do not clean will eventually clean you out through disease. It is better to take a step toward your body, or at the very least, to jump. Eighth, why the belly is smaller in the morning. The mechanics of nocturnal flow. Many people notice that in the morning, their abdomen appears significantly smaller and softer than in the evening. This is not an illusion, nor is it the result of fat burned overnight. It is a consequence of the natural restoration of venous, lymphatic, and interstitial fluid flow. During sleep, the body lies horizontally, and the force of gravity is distributed differently. There are no kinks in the lower back, no pressure on the iliac vessels, no compression of the liver in a bent position. It is at night that the body, for the first time all day, gets a chance to initiate proper drainage from the lower body, including the abdomen. Alexander Mikulin emphasized, lying down, the body rests, but the blood works, and if you do not interfere with it, it will repair you on its own. When you sleep, the diaphragm continues to move with each breath. The liver receives a gentle massage through respiration. Blood and lymph flow slowly but steadily. This allows the liver to partially unload itself. Over 6 to 8 hours of sleep, the fluid accumulated in the abdominal tissues is partially eliminated through the kidneys. Some is processed by the intestines. This is why morning is the period of least internal swelling. But the moment you stand up, sit at a table, and bend over, this entire effect begins to vanish. By lunchtime, the belly returns. Not because you have eaten but because you have subjected your body to a vertical load without movement. Mikulin explained it simply. At night, you lie down and the body takes its chance. By day, you sit and everything reverses. This is the key insight. The abdomen is not fat tissue. It is an indicator of flow. If the flow is moving, the belly shrinks. If the flow is stopped, the belly swells. That is why he advised doing his exercises in the morning to extend the state of nocturnal release. Morning vibrations, walking, breathing techniques, all of this helps to not lose the 8 hours the body spent on cleansing. He believed that at night the body repairs itself. By day, you hinder it, and our task is to stop hindering. This is why the morning offers a chance. Your belly is telling you, I can be lighter, but you must help me not to fill up again. And it is in these morning hours that you can take the simplest actions to consolidate the flow, not return to stagnation. This is a crucial moment for restoring the liver and consequently your physique. Ninth, how to stop fighting fat and start cleaning the filter. The modern person fights fat as if it were an enemy. We starve ourselves, exhaust ourselves with cardio, take laxatives, count calories, and hate our own bodies. But fat is not the enemy, it is merely a consequence of the fact that the body's main filter, the liver, has ceased to cope with its job. Alexander Mikulin believed that obesity begins not with food, but with an overload of the body's filtration and pumping systems. And as long as a person fights the symptom, the disease continues to grow within. He wrote, if you fight what is on the outside and ignore what is on the inside, you will lose. The liver is the body's main filter. When it is clogged, everything that should have been eliminated is deposited in the tissues, especially in the abdomen. The point is not to burn fat, but to restore the body's ability to cleanse itself. When the liver works correctly, fats are metabolized, toxins are neutralized, and fluid does not accumulate, which means the belly does not grow. But if the liver is overloaded, everything begins to settle, and no diet can fix this until the filter is cleared. And not with magic teas or supplements, but through movement, rhythm, gentle pulsations, and the restoration of breath and circulation. Mikulin called not for a battle, but for an engineering approach. First, you relieve the load on the system. Then, you restore its flow. Then you restart its metabolism. He understood that the organism is capable of restoring itself if we don't interfere and if its purification systems are working. Therefore, the war on fat is a false goal. The true goal is to restore the liver's functionality, which means moving, breathing, drinking water, not sitting for long periods, working on posture, doing vibrational exercises, and unloading the digestive tract. When a person shifts their focus from losing my belly to helping my liver, everything changes. The stress disappears. Energy, lightness, and mental clarity emerge. The excess falls away because the body itself removes what hinders it. Fat is the body's way of dealing with what it cannot eliminate. Clean the filter, and the rest will fall into place. This is the wisdom of Mikulin. Don't fight, fix. Your belly is not a mistake. It is feedback. It is a quiet signal from a body that has for years accumulated what it could not process. We are accustomed to blaming ourselves for extra pounds, for our appetite, for a lack of willpower, but the truth lies elsewhere. The truth is that within us is a system capable of handling enormous loads, if only we help it. Alexander Mikulin was not a doctor, he was an engineer, but it is his perspective, precise, practical, based on circulation, pressure, and mechanics, that allows us to truly understand that health is not a battle, but a functioning system. When the liver is clear, the body restores its own balance. When blood and lymph flow, the belly recedes. When you stop sitting, the body stands tall. When you stop putting pressure on yourself, the body begins to breathe. The belly is not about fat. It is about flow, about movement, about internal order. We do not rule the body. We either respect its mechanics or we violate them. Mikulin said, "Life is movement. Do not turn yourself into sediment." And indeed, everything that stagnates begins to decay. Everything that moves is renewed. If you want to reclaim your shape, your energy, and your freedom, start with something simple. Do not fight your belly. Restore the flow to your liver. This does not require force. It requires understanding. You are not weak. You are simply tired of fighting the consequences. It is time to address the cause.